happy that you're taking the time out of your day to join us. Today we will be discussing our options in greenhouses, from our standard models to our custom design engineered structures. We'll also touch on how Grower Supply can help you design a greenhouse from the ground up and outfit it with everything you need from ventilation systems to benches. I would like to introduce Karen Meister, one of our senior national account managers here at Grower Supply. She will be presenting the webinar to you today. Karen specializes in greenhouse and hydroponic system sales, and she is very knowledgeable and can be a great resource for you. If any of your questions are not answered today, I urge you to contact her directly. I will now hand the mic over to Karen and we'll get started. Thanks for joining us.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Carrie, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Karen, and a little bit about myself. I've been involved in industry in some aspect or another for the last 30 years. I have not only sold commercially, but I have propagated, grown, managed, and had my own business. So I have been around for a long time. Welcome to our webinar. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about our company, some of our design and solutions, any greenhouses that you might be looking at, engineered greenhouse differs from a standard greenhouse model, how the process actually works within ours, and how we can achieve the dream goal that you're looking for. A little bit about our company. We have two campuses, one located in South Windsor, Connecticut, top of your screen on the right-hand side. That particular utility is where we are currently. It houses our sales force, and also it is our corporate headquarters. A major portion of our manufacturing and storage facilities are in Dyersville, Iowa. You can also see a picture on the left-hand side of our technical greenhouse center, which we're very proud of. It's been in existence for approximately 30 years, and we're located in Dyersville, which again is smack dab in the middle of the country, so that we can service of the coast adequately. Two locations. We're a company of employees. I do encourage you to check out our technology center. 2-bay Series 2000 house that's fully clad in 8mm twin wall polycarbonate. Offer classes, as Carrie said, in hydroponics and also solder that are quite knowledgeable and enjoyable to attend. I'm looking forward to going out to the Technology Center in October to participate in the next hydroponics workshop. I encourage you, if you're in the area, to stop in, come visit us. Sam, manager in Iowa, he's a very friendly fella. He's more than happy to have and talk to you about some of our design beds and tables. Just ask that you do make an appointment just to make sure that someone is there if Sam's not, to walk you through these and show you the ropes. Today we're going to talk about engineered greenhouses, how indeed we handle these situations when calls come in. But I'd like to go and start kind of with the basics. There are many reasons why you may want to purchase a greenhouse. Often customers will call in asking us to provide a solution so that they can extend their growing season, or they're looking to control their plant environments, or just to enjoy it out in the wintertime. We can help you. I do encourage you that if this indeed is something that you're looking to do, greenhouses can be a permitting or a non-permitting procedure. Only your local building department can tell you if you're going to need a permit. I do suggest that you check with them before you proceed with house purchase. Usually anything under 120 20 square feet doesn't require a permit, but again, I would encourage you to check locally, especially schools. And some of the states are getting particularly fussy as far as whether or not a permit. I think downturn in the economy, it's a way for them to make extra money as well. We offer all kinds of professional engineer drawers, and also have a staff of house engineers that work very closely with myself and the other salespeople in regard to engineering, house, and wants and needs. We like to think of ourselves as a design solution. Actually, we like to think of ourselves as problem solution providers. We manufacture our steel structures from scrap steel in the United States. Side, they touch that a lot of the manufacturing greenhouses does take place. Let's talk a little bit about the main differences between engineered versus standard greenhouses. Things that are important to note are the type of foundation that you would be putting a greenhouse on. You'd need to know whether or not this is something that's going to be mounted temporarily or on a more permanent surface, such as concrete. It's also important to know what particular wind and load requirements are required in your area. Each different county in the United States has different wind and snow load requirements. Those also can change based on whatever elevation you are in. If indeed you're going to need an engineered greenhouse, you may also need the foundation be engineered. If that's the case, it's not unusual for a geotechnical survey to be necessary. Again, with a standard greenhouse, because the building is considered temporary, more often than not, it's also zoned agriculture, so you don't necessarily need that permitting. But again, do suggest that you check with the inspector, find out whether or not that's going to be something that's necessary for you. You also need to take into consideration that when engineering is required, there may be additional costs associated with the greenhousing. The drawings themselves, because they are stamped and sealed by an engineer in your state, there is a fee for that. There also may be different requirements of the foundations, surveys, drainage, and if that you've got your heart set on, not necessarily going to stand up to whatever wind and county requires, we may have to beef up the steel a little bit by either decreasing rafter spacing or changing the gauge of the steel. It's also good to pay particular attention to where you're installing this greenhouse. Location is important from a heat light standpoint, depending upon what area of the country you live in. The rule of thumb normally is anything north of 40 degrees latitude. You want to orient the house in an east-west position to take advantage of the sun, unless you're growing year-round, and then you would want to do it in a north-south locale, and the reason you do it that way is to take better and take advantage of the winter sun. There's also more costs that could be involved, again, beyond heating and cooling, and that involves just the growing itself. There are two major different types of greenhouses. One is a Gothic or a house-shaped structure. It usually has straight walls, peak comes to peak top. It has less angle sidewall. The advantage of Gothic that you get up very close to the edge, going up the rounded edge. The other type of style that is available is a round or Quonset style house, curved from the ground up and over an arc. And again, the advantage of one that not structures angle, have a shed snow, or Gothic style houses. Frames can be made out of aluminum. Aluminum is generally a little bit more expensive, um, and it handle a little bit less concerned. The aluminum frames, hobby-based houses, where the aluminum then powder paint make it lasting. It's an aesthetically pleasing greenhouse. Again, it's very, very popular in the hobby world. The other type of greenhouse frame that you are going to encounter more often than not is one that's made out of steel. In our particular case, we offer different gauge steels, anywhere from 17 gauge, anywhere from 1.0 up to, not unusual, some wider versions, the 2.375 or a 2.87 gauge pipe. Our particular steel is triple galvanized. It is made in America, so it's very long lasting. And again, it's an American made product. We're very proud of that. Covers that your greenhouses can be made out of um, range from either a single layer of greenhouse poly that's awful. Okay, sorry. A single layer greenhouse film or poly, which is also called film, can be available in either single or double layers. It's usually the most inexpensive way to cover your house. Most commercial grade films have a 92% light transmission, so it's very good for allowing the sun to get through to the plants. And again, can be as low as 10 cents every square foot. The holdback on that one is that it does have to be replaced every 4 years. The reason it has to be replaced is that film itself is treated with a UV protectant, and after about 4 years, that starts to dissipate. If left on, it may crack and become very brittle, and the poly would just disintegrate. The other type of greenhouse coverings that are available would be fabric, which more often than not is translucent, generally 5.2 ounces in weight, 12 mil. This is used in areas that are particularly windy. Holds up to the wind a little bit better, and also is utilized in the southern portion of the United States where the sun is strongest. This has about an 85 to 87% light transmission, so it still allows enough light through to grow an adequate crop. The other main type of covering that you're going to find on greenhouses would be polycarbonate. Again, two different types. There's a single corrugated polycarbonate, which allows about 92% of light through. It it is less costly than the twin wall polycarbonate, but doesn't offer any kind of insulation value. Twin wall polycarbonate can range anywhere from 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 10 millimeter, and that just refers to the amount of space between the two layers of the rigid polycarbonate. It's the most expensive, but it does give you an R value of about 1.76. Again, all are UV treated, and the polycarbonates are about 200 times stronger than glass. Modifying standard greenhouses can also be done. There's several different ways that you can do that to a stock building to save some money. Would be if you're in an area where, again, you're getting a fair amount of snow or wind. We can increase the amount of steel in the building by decreasing the rafter spacing, therefore making the building stronger. or we can also change the gauge of the steel. We also have the ability to add support kits, and again, with most greenhouses coming with anchors such as ground posts, you can always pin the corners by adding earth augers, uh, increasing the length of the ground posts, adding or concreting into piers, and again, um, earth augers in the center of the house. Engineered greenhouses, again, um, usually when you're talking about engineered greenhouses, you're speaking about either gutter connected houses or houses that share an in between wall, such as pictured above. They usually have a higher side wall or under gutter height that can be manipulated anywhere from 6 to 20 feet, depending upon what your needs are. Because you're allowed to manipulate that height, it gives you the ability to install side doors if necessary. You can add roof vents and also sidewall vents. Sidewall vents can be made out of polycarbonate if necessary, or the gable ends can also have vents so that if you have an evaporative cooling system and you want to protect that in the wintertime, you can do rack and pinion side or gable vents. Again, with engineered greenhouses, there's certain requirements that we need to know in order to make sure that the house that we help design for you is going to meet all the requirements of your local building codes, also your wind and snow loads, and again, elevation sometimes will come into play with that. Some of the custom greenhouse options that are available in our engineered greenhouses be retractable shade cloth systems or retractable blackout film shade systems. Those are either flat or you can get them flat slope. Again, available either in an aluminum or a black shade that would be utilized to increase the amount of cooling that goes on or decrease your heat requirements in the wintertime. Again, evaporative cooling is something that's very often added to engineered greenhouses. The evaporative cooling can be put on the gable ends if it's just a single bay house, or if it is a gutter connected house, the evaporative cooling system is usually installed along the length of the house so that you get adequate ventilation. Interior curtains are also available in your engineered houses so that in the gutter connected houses, if you want to curtain off a certain portion of your greenhouse, if you're only doing propagation in a certain house and you only need to either heat or cool that specific area, we do have the ability to put in interior curtains to give you little microclimates inside the greenhouse. There's also the ability to add support for trellising, for instance, in growing hydroponic tomatoes. Um, Also can deal with sloped concrete, again, for specific needs if you're doing a float system or if you're doing any kind of a hydroponic system. Um, and again, there's that ability to have a side door entrance. Just recently designed a house where there were limited access through the gable ends, so we had to put doors on the sides of the houses so that the customer could get in and out with their skid steer without going off their own property. The actual design process in an engineering greenhouse comes after we sit down and talk to you about specific questions. Things that are important for us to know are what exactly is it that you're going to be doing in this greenhouse? When is it that you're looking to do this? Where are you going to be locating it? And again, are you the person who is going to be either the grower or are you the end user? Um, it's also helpful if we know whether or not funds have been set aside If not, we can discuss different options that we offer at the moment for financing this operation. At that point, it's also important to know what kind of skin you want to put on this frame. Again, whether you'd want to go with a single or a double layer of greenhouse film, um, or polycarbonate, or a combination of the above. The also important things that we need to know are what kind of under gutter height are you looking for? Again, whether or not you're going to be trellising tomatoes, or if you're going to be taking equipment into the greenhouse and you need a certain height, then it would be important to know what that under gutter height is so that we can make sure that you can get whatever equipment that you're looking to use in there around without a problem. Also, we need to know what kind of ground, or whether it's going on gravel or concrete, how you're mounting this to whatever surface you're putting it on, so that we can take that into consideration. You can have any combination of door, single, double, sliding, or swinging doors. That's no problem, whatever it is that you're looking for. I like to use slider doors in areas where there's snow so that you don't have to worry about shoveling in front of the doors in order to get in and out. We also need to know whether or not you're going to be using it year-round, if there are any kind of specific cooling requirements that you're going to need, or whether or not you'd be interested in either roof, side vents, or you just want to naturally ventilate with roll-up curtains, um, drop down or roll up. Greenhouse accessories that we can also add into, whether this greenhouse is engineered or not, is provide benches. It's not unusual for someone to ask us to do a benching diagram based on what it is that they're growing. We'd be happy to help you out with that. Horizontal airflow fans for adequate circulation. Wagons and hose trolleys to be able to move and water your plants. Shade material. Heaters, propane, electric, or natural gas. Radiant heat. We can talk to you about PEX tubing, putting that into the concrete of your floor and utilizing that for a root zone heating system. Exhaust fans, or ground cover. We also have lights, both primary and secondary. In the next catalog that's coming out, we have some new LED state-of-the-art lights that will be available that specifically are PAR lighting, which is utilizing the area of the spectrum of the light spectrum that plants use most. Carts, baskets, irrigation, computerization control, drip tape, irrigation systems. All these can be part of what it is that we can sit down and plan and help you with. Why should you choose Grower Supply? Again, just for the above reasons that I just talked to you about. We have been around for 30 years. We have no plans on going anyplace. Usually you stay with the same national account manager from start to finish through your procedure, so that it's almost as though you get to have a relationship. You meet and know your national account manager, and they you, so that both of you can anticipate your needs and wants. Grower Supply offers some very good finance plans. We do both in-house and out-of-house financing, where currently we're running specials where you can put as little as 10% down and finance the rest anywhere from up to 12 monthly payments to 48 monthly payments. If your purchase is large enough, we also do offer leasing. That is done at more than a 0% interest, but again, we can talk to you about that. The finance department is more than happy to discuss things. Next step, if indeed this is something that you're going to need an engineered greenhouse, there is a time factor involved. It usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks to actually get the stamped drawings, so that once we take the initial information that you need and give that to the engineers sit down and put the ideas to paper. We then will provide you with a preliminary set of drawings for you to check to make sure that the doors are in the locations that you want and everything is the way that you want. You then sign those and send us back the forms. We then take those to an engineer that, again, is qualified and licensed in your state. That engineer signs and stamps the drawings, and then we send you 3 copies of that. With that copy, you can provide to your building inspector to get that building permit. Once you accomplish that, then you just call and say, okay, you're ready, and we get the greenhouse on its way to you. So, again, this is something that's very easy to do. We try to help you as much as possible so that it's a pleasant experience. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them now. Or please feel free to email me at the email address that's on the screen, or please feel free to call me at 800-476-9715, extension 207. If when you call, the computer tells you that I'm not available, she's lying. I'm just on the phone with someone else, so please leave me a message, and I will call you back as soon as I'm. Thank you for your time today. I hope that you learned some valuable information. If indeed there is anything else you need help with, please feel free to call us. We have a few questions here that I'd be happy to answer. And then again, if you have anything you want us to answer, please feel free to type in, and we'll take those as we go. How do you ensure that the heating and cooling systems you provide meet the requirements of the greenhouse? Well, we have several formulas that we use to calculate the heating and cooling needs of a greenhouse. The first formula deals with the volume of air within the structure, which is simply the length times the width times the height. This tells us how many cubic feet per minute a heating or cooling system must be able to handle. For example, a 25 by 90 by 8 structure house should have a heating, cooling, or ventilation system that can properly maintain temperatures in at least 18,000 cubic feet of air. Determining the volume of air in a greenhouse is the basic formula. When determining the required BTUs, we also take into consideration the location of the structure, the application, the average low temperature in the structure, and the temperature the structure needs to be at for optimum plant growth. Type of covering and many other things depending on the specific application may also come into use. Once we have the CFM and the BTU requirements, we use those numbers to size a system that is appropriate for the needs of your structure. Do you have any expertise on the business and such as marketing or economic analysis? Or do you focus slowly on the structure themselves? Well, we do focus mostly on the structures themselves. Many of our national account managers have backgrounds in either horticulture or agriculture, and a few have experience with the business end as well, but it's not our primary area of expertise. Have you ever put a greenhouse on the flat roof of an existing building? Yes, we have. As a matter of fact, we have designed a number of greenhouses that have been installed on the roof of an existing building. When designing a structure for this purpose, though, it's important to consider a number of factors, including how much weight the roof will take and what the local building codes are. Can you do energy modeling with various options to understand the heating and cooling costs? We have a software program available with a calculator that will give you an idea of the cost of propane or natural gas based on the USDA low averages or the zip code that you live in. Just a matter of plugging in a couple of numbers, and with that we can tell you approximately how much propane or natural gas you'll use over a certain period of time and approximately how much it will cost. Of course, that's going to differ based on the area of the country that you live in. Do you have any designs that incorporate foundations that also function as cisterns and heat sinks? We do not at this time. However, an engineer would be more able to answer that question. We have worked with customers who have built their own foundations to have these functions. If you decide to do your own foundation, we can incorporate it very easily into the design of the green. I'm interested in retrofitting an existing building to use as a growing space. I want to replace the roof with greenhouse film to let some heat and light in. Can Grower Supply help me design a situation? Absolutely. That's what we're here for. We'd need a few pictures or diagram of what you want to do so we can make the best recommendations. With that, we can suggest what type of film will work best for you, or if you wanted something a little bit more permanent, whether or not we would think that you would be better off with twin wall or corrugated polycarbonate. Is polycarbonate suitable for the Gothic style greenhouses? Yes, twin wall and corrugated polycarbonate each have a specific bend radius, and there's an optimum temperature that you use when installing it. We use both varieties of polycarbonate in our designs for both our Gothic and our Quonset style greenhouses. Building codes in our area limit building height to 13 feet, but we are interested in the highest straight sidewall possible. What do you suggest? We have certain models that have very high sidewalls. Majestic greenhouses we have a 10-foot sidewall height, and our Pro Solar Star greenhouse has a 6-foot sidewall height. Again, with the engineering houses that are available, you can go anywhere from 6 feet up to 20 feet. Our design and manufacturing teams can custom build anything that you're looking for. It appears as though that's the only calls that we have. So again, thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon. We appreciate it. And again, I encourage you to take a ride over to our Technology Center. It's a great place to